Hi, Devin from DCON here, and this is the Redmibook 16. It's a 16-inch laptop from Xiaomi, and it's a Chinese laptop. By Chinese laptop, I mean this isn't a laptop you can pick up from a local retailer or even an online retailer. You have to buy it directly from a Chinese retailer, such as Banggood. Now, I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check that out. This laptop itself comes in two different configurations. Both of these configurations are identical laptops, except they have different processors. The entry-level model, which starts off at $630, comes with a Ryzen 4700u processor, and the next model up comes with a Ryzen 4700u processor, which is the one I have right here. And that one retails for $150 more at $830. So, let's cover the build quality real quick. This laptop is constructed from an aluminum alloy, and it looks and feels very, very nice. It's very reminiscent of an Apple or Surface device. It's just that well crafted. The edges itself are a bit harsh for my liking. I mean, it's not going to take off a fingernail or anything. It's just a bit harsher than your average laptop, and was something I noticed almost immediately. The corners are nice and rounded, which gives it a nice overall aesthetic look. And with this laptop being constructed from an aluminum alloy, there's essentially no flex. The top lid has zero flex. The top case itself does have some minimal flex, which you'll see later on when I talk about the keyboard, but overall it's pretty much kept to a minimum. And the laptop has a nice cutout on the front right here, which allows you to open the lid, and the machine is a one-hand open, which is always nice to see. The display is a 16-inch matte display with a resolution of 1920 by 1080, and it has a mightily impressive 90% screen-to-body ratio, which gives us these nice thin bezels here. And equally impressive is the panel implemented. It's highly color accurate, which is nice to see at this price point. Usually you're paying around $1,300 to get a panel this nice, and it's really great to see it at this cheaper price point. With this being in an IPS panel, viewing off axis is a nice experience as well. There's little to no degradation in the picture quality, and the matte coating does a nice job of warding off any reflections. Moving on to the keyboard, we have a full-size keyboard, and the layout and spacing is about perfect. Key travel is nice and deep as well, as we have 1.5mm of key travel, and it actually takes quite a bit of distance before actuation takes place. The keycaps have an ever slightly texture to them, which just feels really nice while typing, and the switches themselves are nice and quiet, which makes this ideal for an office or a classroom setting. The trackpad is very nice. It's a Windows Precision trackpad, and it's very large. It's probably one of the largest trackpads you'll find on any Windows laptops to date. The trackpad is nice and smooth, gestures work just fine, and the click mechanism itself is nice and tactile. I did have an issue with the sensitivity, however. With this being such a larger trackpad, my palms rested on the outer fringes of the trackpad itself, and it constantly caused my cursor to jump around the screen. Whenever I was typing a document, sometimes this would cause me to select other portions of my document and cause a typing error. I think this is kind of a software issue, and I hope an update down the road will fix it, but as of right now, it's something I have to deal with. Okay, let's take a look at the bottom of the laptop. We have our speakers right here, and they're in stereo configuration. Outside of the 16-inch MacBook Pro, these are my favorite laptop speakers to date. It's not that they provide a nice low end or anything. In fact, there's no low end to speak of, but they're just able to maintain a nice quality of sound as you increase the volume, which typically doesn't happen with most laptops. Usually laptops will reach a threshold and they'll just sound very hollow and tinny after that point. These do not do that. The bottom of the laptop also has a very large inting vent right here, and this does a nice job at cooling the overall laptop. During normal use, the laptop is fairly silent and the fan will occasionally kick on. And during more intensive use such as editing or gaming, the fan's going to be on the entire time, but it does a nice job at keeping the overall laptop nice and cool. Alright, let's look at the internals real quick. As you can see, we have our battery at the bottom, and just adjacent to that we have our M.2 solid state drive, which is the only replaceable part in this laptop. And we also have 16GB of RAM soldered onto the motherboard. But the big ticket item here is that AMD 4700u processor, which is an 8-core processor. Both the Ryzen 5 and Ryzen 7 chips are outclassing Intel's latest 10th generation Intel i7 chips, not only in terms of performance, but they're also way more efficient, which is much better for a laptop at this point in time. And it's more affordable. I was able to edit this entire video with this laptop, and I'm utilizing 6K footage, which is very damn impressive. The ability to edit 6K footage with laptop at this price point is unheard of. It's fantastic, and it's all credit to that Zen 2 architecture Gaming performance is excellent as well. I was able to get console-like frame rates at 1080p. Playing newer AAA titles like Sekiro, I was getting around 21 frames per second, and while it wasn't the smoothest gameplay experience, it was still fully playable, and I had zero issues playing it myself. Older AAA titles like Tomb Raider and Bioshock Infinite is where this really shines. I was getting around 45 to 52 frames per second, and the overall experience was very nice. And smaller indie games are perfect. I was getting around 60 frames per second with Hades, and when I tried a more demanding indie game such as Ori and the Will of Wisps, I was getting around 52 frames per second, and the overall gameplay experience was very smooth. Battery life on the Redmibook 16 isn't that great. I was getting just under 9 hours at minimum brightness, and around 6.5 hours at maximum brightness. Port selection is great, however, as we have two USB Type-C ports on the left-hand side, one of which is utilized for charging and video output, while the other is data only. We also have an HDMI port and two USB Type-A ports, one of which is on the opposite side and adjacent a headphone jack. The Redmibook 16 isn't without its faults, however. There's no backlight to the keyboard, and there's no web camera either, which is becoming more important in the day and age we live in. But the biggest fault of them all may be the version of Windows 10 that comes pre-installed. Being that this is a Chinese laptop, it comes pre-installed with a Chinese version of Windows 10. Now, this isn't a simple fix of just adjusting the language to English. You have to literally reinstall the entire operating system from scratch. Now, this is a fairly complicated process, and I'll leave a link in the description below on how to do this. Just know it's going to take around 1 to 2 hours to do. Now, the positives of this laptop greatly outweigh the negatives, and I still highly recommend it. If you're looking for a large screen laptop with excellent build quality, a color accurate display, and excellent performance to boot, then this may be the laptop for you. Well, it's been nice. If you enjoyed this video, send me your likes. If you enjoyed my content, send me your subs. I'll see you next time.